really broken totally yet because I haven't gotten an update yet for some odd reason.
His house is for sale. He's looking for real estate in Baltimore. I think he's going back to the Ravens next year, but he's just going to finish out this year with the Jets because, at this point, what's the point in, just fire him at the end of the year. I think their GM search is going to be the most important thing that they do ever in franchise history because you can't blow this again. You can't go 4 bad GMs in a row, and then blow it a 5th time. And Jaguars. The Jaguars GM is sinister. The guy is a bad person. I wish something happened before that could, make it so that he could have been gone a while ago. But what he does is he pins other people against other people, and he makes everything not his fault. And that's the biggest problem that's really the biggest problem right now is that you have a GM that doesn't take accountability for any of his mistakes and thinks that he has a good team and blames the bad play on the coaching, which, look, not for nothing. If the coach won a Super Bowl and then took a not very talented roster to the playoffs 2 years ago, I don't think you could really blame the coach as much as you'd like to. And I think his excuses are finally running out. So I'm very happy to see him go. He's blown many draft picks.
It seems like Doug Peterson is going to go before the general manager. I mean, from everything I'm reading, it says that they're eyeing significant changes today after their game against the Lions, pending the results.
Yeah, well, Peterson has to go too. I mean, he hasn't been he's not completely, absolved of all blame, but at the same time, when things don't work out, and you have a quarterback that's 24 years old on a second contract, $250 million, he runs the organization if he needs to. And I think that when you draft a guy with Urban Meyer as a head coach and Baalke as your GM, and you never add more, you don't get more talented, you add maybe a piece or two, but you don't make the team really better as a whole. I think that now that he's got his contract, he could speak up a little bit more and he's not playing for a reason. I think he's boycotting the team, which he should, because I wouldn't want to play under Baalke at this point either. And Doug Peterson, he's thrown the quarterback under the bus so many times. So enough is enough. And at this point, I wouldn't play for either that coach or the GM.
Yeah, it's a messed up situation there in Jacksonville. I mean, they have a decent bit of talent, and the problem is they've done a poor job of just developing it all around, and and executing in the draft and executing it with the product on the field, and it's a change of scenery for everyone. I mean, I think the GM has been terrible. Doug Peterson, I don't know where he'll go, what he'll get. Maybe he'll end up back with the Eagles if Sirianni's gone. Who knows? But a change of scenery for them, a change of systems, and a scheme for Trevor Lawrence too would benefit him because he's underperformed in the sense that he hasn't been given the tools to succeed in this league yet. And you've seen it in the first year with Doug Peterson. We had that great year, and they made the playoffs, and
they won a playoff game.
Exactly, and since then it's just kind of been middling, and he has not lived up to the bill, and it's. I guess partly it's because of him, but also you can see that everything around him has just been terrible.
What I can't seem to understand is you're making the decision to fire him pending the results of a game that they're 14-point underdogs in. Like, I feel like the week to fire him was probably after the first London game. Like, if that's what you were going to do, just do it.
Yeah.
And like for me, you either fire a head coach, with some chance to still make the playoffs left, right? You either do it then, you do it mid-season where there's a chance a team could win the division, get a wild card, that type of thing, and you let an assistant kind of prove themselves a little bit, or you just fire him at the end of the year and you start your search kind of while this guy's still coaching. Like,
yeah, the issue is that he was 2-6 2 years ago and wound up going 9-8 and making the playoffs. So
right,
if there was a coach to do it, I guess you had to give him the benefit of the doubt.
But that's my point. Then why are you firing him today against the Lions where he's 3-7? Like,
because your quarterback won't play.
all right, and you know what? I'll let you in on a little secret. I don't care who's coaching them. The quarterback's still not going to play. You got rid of his left tackle. Regardless, I know we spoke about the tackle situation, and you feel a little more confident in the backup. That doesn't matter. That was still his starting left tackle. That was the guy blocking his blind side, and you traded him away still with a lot of season left, and a very winnable division. So you traded that guy away. Now he's hurt. He's looking back saying there's going to be a new GM next year. There's going to be a new head coach next year. For all I know, they're shipping me off somewhere if they find a taker. So why am I going to go out and continue to hurt myself and hurt what I've got left in my football career for what? I get it. Like, I don't agree with a guy giving up on a season, but in terms of Trevor Lawrence, the Jacksonville Jaguars have absolutely failed him in multiple different ways you want to look at it. Head coach, offensive coordinator, regime, everything. They failed him. I mean, they've paid him, and that's great, but you've given him no weapons. You've given him no defense to lean on. Yeah, if I were him, I wouldn't play either. I don't see a purpose in it. I don't care who's coaching. I don't care if you fire Doug Peterson and you bring in Bill Belichick the next day, which wouldn't happen. I still wouldn't play. Why am I going to hurt myself? There's no guarantee that I'm here next year. Both of these guys aren't here next year. Why am I doing this?
I think that because Trevor Lawrence was drafted number 1 overall, and then they didn't build around him. Then he brought them to the playoffs, and then they said, "Oh, we're good enough now. We don't need to build around them as you know. We don't need to identify that the roster still needs help. They're going to just coast." And then they went to 9-8 again last year. Once he got hurt, they fell apart, and then he got paid. So when he got paid, yes, there's an argument to say, you know, he just shouldn't play the rest of the season. But there's also an argument to say, I'm boycotting this team. Like, I will not play under these particular higher ups, and until they're gone, I will play. Now, if they fire those guys, he should play, because that's the whole point of him not playing right now is to get these guys out of here. So once they're gone, what is he going to say? Oh, I still am not going to play. At that point, it's like, all right, dude, you're just stealing money from the team. Like, you have to play when you're healthy. You know, he's just using a little bit of a shoulder injury.
He's not healthy.
He's
fucked
fine.
Up his non.
I mean, in the sense, the team's basically given up on him. So why is he going to go out and further injure himself? I mean, he has a legitimate injury. You know, they've given up on him. They've given up on the season, and for all you know, the coach isn't going to be here next week, and the GM might be gone soon after. So it's a situation where it's like, yeah, maybe if they're kind of like in the thick of things, and they're, you know, maybe like 2 games back, and they haven't traded anyone off. Yeah, I can see him being mad that he's not fighting through this, but this is a situation where they've traded his starting left tackle. You're hearing rumblings everywhere that the coach and the GM are going to be gone soon. So why the fuck would he want to continue to hurt himself or maybe even ruin his career by doing so?
After today, I don't want to count chickens before they hatch, but in all likelihood, you're going to be, what, 3-8? Like,
I hope so. I hope they get crushed today.
What are you coming back for? It's over. The season's over. It's November. You've got 8 losses. It's over. Like, this is it. You know, I know the AFC is not the greatest right now, and I know that their division's not the greatest, but like the Houston Texans need to win. What is it, like 3 more games, 4 more games?
And they're getting Nico Collins back today, so their team's going to be even better while your team's getting worse and worse week after week.
Let's shift our
The Texans are literally gonna clinch the division in 2 weeks. It's crazy.
Let's shift our attention a little bit here to the Jets. So there's nothing official right now about Joe Douglas. It's just him putting his house on the market. Who, I guess this is a dumb question because I think I know your answer, Facino. Like, is Joe to blame for everything that's gone wrong in the past, 3 years now?
Yeah.
It starts with him. With him, but I think Woody Johnson has to shoulder some of this blame, and he's the owner, so it's never going to be publicly stated by anyone that Woody Johnson failed this team. But you know, obviously Joe Douglas and Woody both wanted to go after Aaron Rodgers, but once he was here, it's kind of like Woody Johnson treated Aaron Rodgers like he was superior to Joe Douglas, and I get it. You know, Joe Douglas has not done a good job here, but you can never take a player and basically have him be the leader of this team, have him be the one that's making the decisions, that dictate the future of the team, and it showed. So I think there's a lot of problems with the Jets right now, and as a Giants fan, I'm dealing with a very similar thing, but it's been a mess, and I think they need to kind of get away from all this, get away from Joe Douglas, sadly, get away from Aaron Rodgers, and pseudo rebuild, because they do have some talented pieces there where they could hopefully quickly put something together, a competitive product, but they need to
So
get some of these guys.
Rodgers was asked by the media this week if he plans on playing next year, and his answer is, I think so, yeah. He's contracted to play next year.
He's owed a lot of money.
Yeah.
He has to play.
Does he though? Like, do you think the next guy that takes over, first of all, do you have any inclination in the direction they're going to go?
No, the problem is that so when the fan base wants something and they're wrong, it becomes, oh, well, Joe Douglas, it's not totally to blame. Everybody wanted him, but that's not really the job of the GM. So the next GM, he just needs to get it right. It's not that complicated. What direction to go, I think they have to go with a guy that understands how to scout and a guy that knows how to hire a staff that can develop a quarterback. It sounds really simple, but that's the only way that they can, have success is get a GM that can evaluate talent and draft the right players and get a coaching staff that can develop the quarterback that they bring in.
Let's take, if anybody tunes in, you know where I stand on Rodgers. You know where where Ant stands on the Rodgers, on Aaron Rodgers. If we take both of our biases out here, okay, the next general manager, whoever it may be, hires the next head coach, whoever that may be. If we take both of our biases out, okay, you really like the guy. I don't. I think he's a cancer. Just based off what's happened this past year, let's throw last year out, right? Because last year he tears his Achilles. Rodgers, nothing that went on last year was Rodgers' fault. The guy tore his Achilles, tried to come back, essentially was ready to come back, and the Jets were out of it. So you can't hold anything in 23 against him. In 24, a lot went wrong. A head coach gets fired. The defensive coordinator gets promoted. The defense starts to slip a little bit. And you have a lot of nonsense off the field, basically. Do you think this next head coach wants number 8 back there to still continue to play for this team and be in that locker room? Because, like, if you take how much you love him out of it, and you take how much I can't stand him out of it, like, just based off what you have seen on the field and what you have heard through the locker room, do you think this next guy that's coming in with a clean slate still wants this guy around? Because personally, I don't think he does. I think Rodgers has had a half here where he looked really good, a game here where he looked really good. Outside of that, he hasn't done much this year. Like, if his name was not Aaron Rodgers, if his name was, Joe Smith, I think you would look at this guy and say, he's 42 years old, he's 41 years old, we got to move on. The guy cannot play. He can't play this game at a high rate anymore. We have to move on. He's a very influential guy. He's a guy that has a past of doing things like that and saying things like that where he gets certain people against other people. Like, do you think the next head coach wants that in his locker room? Honest answer. Take the bias out of it.
Situation now.
Huh?
I think when you knew that you needed him to win a Super Bowl, it was one thing. And now I think you're using him as a passing of the torch type of guy. And I think he's, no legendary quarterback will ever accept that a backup is drafted to replace them. Tom Brady would never have accepted that. Peyton Manning wouldn't have accepted that. In fact, Peyton Manning left. They drafted Andrew Luck. He left because he knew they were going in that route. He wasn't going to play for them. Same thing with Tom Brady. They drafted Jimmy Garoppolo. He couldn't stand that pick. He didn't want that. And he basically was forcing him out. and which was probably the right thing to do because Brady was a little younger. I think Rodgers at this point will accept the fact that the team needs to get a younger quarterback in here next year, and he needs to help mentor that guy. And I think he knows that he owes it to the Jets to do that. Because he did want to win here and he didn't win here. And if they're going to give him one more year and another opportunity to rack up some stats and, give it one more shot, I think that he needs to, put himself in a position.
Does his track record say he's going to do that? Because if you listen to some of the quotes of Jordan Love after Rodgers left, it certainly doesn't sound like Rodgers was going out of his way to help him.
I don't think that. I mean, I would like to
just
see those
listening
quotes,
to what
I've heard some positive things from Jordan Love from Rodgers, because the one thing that Rodgers said is that he did help because he wasn't helped by Favre, and although he didn't like the draft pick, he still helped Jordan Love. And publicly, a lot of people were like, "Oh, Rodgers isn't going to help him," but I think he was there. I think this is also different. I mean, you're getting paid a lot of money next year to do this. First of all. Second of all, what else can you do? The team needs a quarterback. They know that they need a quarterback. You can retire or you can help the next guy. And I think that, as a GM,
he looks for a trade? Do you think he goes to ownership and says, the new head coach doesn't want me. I don't want to be here if I'm not wanted. Can you move me?
Maybe.
Do you
maybe,
think
but I don't think so. I think that the locker room really respects him. Whether people, whether the coach, the coach needed to go because everybody in that locker room knew that he was a loser.
Yes, he lost.
The GM needs to go. Like I said, the fan base wanted Rodgers. The fan base wanted Zach Wilson. Which I mean, most of the fan base wanted Zach Wilson. Everybody wanted Rodgers. So
right.
Joe Douglas, he blew it. Not obviously the quarterbacks didn't pan out, and that's his fault. But he also blew it from the coaching standpoint, the personnel standpoint, the player evaluation standpoint, and he didn't help, have a team that could actually carry a quarterback that wasn't playing well. Because the Broncos, they developed a real solid defense around a really severely aging quarterback and allowed him to win a Super Bowl in his last year. If Rodgers was on the Broncos, on that Bronco team playing the way he's playing now, they win the Super Bowl. And I think that it's a shame that the team wasn't built properly to help a 40-year-old quarterback. Was he going to throw 40 touchdowns and 5 picks? No. I mean, I wanted Devontae here early. I wanted a tight end that could help pass block because I wanted to give him the best shot to throw 30 touchdowns. Problem is, you got what you wanted. You got a 25 touchdown, 12-pick quarterback that might throw for almost 4,000 yards. And everybody said in the beginning of the season, well, the team is constructed properly to get to the playoffs if Rodgers does that. He's kind of doing that, and they're so bad they can't tackle, they can't pass protect, they can't cover anybody in the secondary without pass interfering. The team is such a shell of themselves, and that's from Joe Douglas letting Huff go, letting JFM go, letting Quentin Jefferson go, and having no backup plan for injuries on this defense. Because people forget, this team never got hurt on the defensive side of the ball for 2 years in a row. So they were a great defense. Yeah.
Mosley had his issues, but yeah.
I don't think he missed a game in the last 2 years. This year, everybody's hurt. But for 2 years, the Jets were the healthiest defense with a lot of talent, and they lost a little bit of talent, and they all got hurt. And what happened? That scheme that everybody thought was, Robert Saleh is a great defensive mind. He's not a great defensive mind. He's only a good coach when every single part of that defense, from the secondary to the linebackers to the defensive line, if they're all superstars and all playing at peak performance, then yeah, Robert Saleh's defense works. You know who else's defense works? My defense. The Car Place Frogs. Their defense would have worked if everybody was a superstar. And they are realizing now that Joe Douglas, the first thing he did was hire a head coach. It was the worst decision he made. The second thing he did was sign a quarterback. It was the second worst decision he made. And then the Rodgers thing, could have saved him if they could have gotten to the playoffs, but he decimated the roster and he didn't change the coaching staff, and they're not winning. And he is the sole reason for why this team has been rebuilding for 7 years. And it's like, how many years would you like to rebuild, Joe? You had Sam Darnold and Jamal Adams. You were given as trade pieces, so you got yourself 2 first-round picks, an extra first and second round pick, and you went into the draft with a surplus of picks, way more darts to throw at the dartboard than any other team, and you came up empty outside of Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, and Jermaine Johnson. Well, guess what? Jermaine Johnson's hurt, no replacement. Sauce Gardner is getting exposed because your coaching staff can't put him in a proper position, and your running back, Breece Hall, he's probably one of the worst running backs in the NFL right now, for keeping it a buck. He is metrically the worst running back in the NFL. So, I mean, those were your picks that we love, that one draft that we cling on to for dear life. What'd you get out of it? Garrett Wilson. So,
Jerry, you want to throw something in here on the Jets before we move on?
Yeah, I just think it's funny how I noticed on Twitter that people are trying to change the narrative now and try to jump in this corner, which I don't necessarily appreciate. I know you should never really talk about an Iron Man's job and you don't want to call for somebody to be fired. But when things have for this long have been this abysmal, you don't really have a choice. I'm sure Facino talked about it with coaching, but like you look at who he's hired in his tenure: Adam Gase, Robert Saleh, and now Jeff Ulbrich. And I understand Jeff Ulbrich's a victim of circumstance, but you haven't really set up your team for success, and that all kind of falls on you as a general manager. I understand Woody might have a part to play in that, but it all starts at the top here. And, Woody's going to be incompetent, and then it falls down to you. You need to be kind of this all-encompassing football mind to pick up the slack, and I understand that Woody does have the final say. We saw that with Wilson. We kind of talked about it, not at length here, but we brought it up a little bit where we felt as if things were kind of coming from the top down, where Woody was demanding that Zach Wilson be playing and all that stuff, because fact of the matter is he shouldn't have lasted more than 5 games last year, and they kept him around. He played the entire season until he got hurt, and then that was that. But when you don't do anything good for a franchise, all the puzzle pieces are kind of in place here. You have a Studley defense who's just not showing up, and I understand maybe they're just not playing up to snuff. I can't speak for that. I have no idea what's going on there. It's actually quite infuriating. You have a pretty solid offense with a lot of weapons. You have Devontae Adams, who I understand is old, but fact of the matter is one of the a top 10 receiver in the NFL. You have Aaron Rodgers, who's probably
He's
a top
anymore.
10.
He's not anymore. He's not.
Could be. Should be. Should be.
He's scratching top 15, but he's not top 10 anymore. There's too much talent at the wide receiver position to consider him top 10.
Fair enough. Okay, fine. You have Breece Hall, who is he was the number 1 running back going into the season this year. And then
now he's the 32nd.
Yeah. And I don't know if that's just, I don't know. I'm a Breece Hall truther. I don't think it's necessarily his fault. I think it's a victim of bad play calling. I think they're trying to make him run up the gut, which he is not. He's not an inside running back. He's a bounces to the outside. He's a throw a screen pass. And I understand you need to be versatile when you're a running back, but there it is, not you letting him his strong suit, explode. They started building the offensive line. It's gotten better. It's better than it was last year. I'll give them credit where credit's due. That's fine. You have Aaron Rodgers, who's a top 10 quarterback of all time on your team. And I understand he's a shell of his former self. And he's not playing well. But again, these are pieces that will at least get you to a wild card game. Look at the Denver Broncos. And I mean, I guess, back when they first brought Peyton in and they went to back-to-back Super Bowls, or am I talking out of my ass?
You're talking out of your ass. They did.
I am.
The Broncos with Peyton, they won. I think it was 2 out of 3. Or you're talking about the Colts with Peyton Manning?
What are you talking about? You're talking about
the Broncos. The Broncos didn't the Broncos win one and lose one? Didn't they get demolished?
They were 2 out of 3 with the Broncos.
So it wasn't 2 in a row.
Missed, and then he won in that last year where he was basically lifeless as a quarterback.
Yeah, but again, what I'm saying is it's kind of like. In my opinion, they're a hell of a lot closer to that mold than they were of the Buccaneers with Tom Brady. I feel like the Buccaneers with Tom Brady had all that. They were running on all cylinders, and Tom Brady still
Brady still had juice.
Exactly, yeah. Whereas I feel like you look at that Broncos team, they weren't exactly the best all around team, but they had all the pieces there to make a run, which I think the Jets have more more than capable of doing so. And I think they just got to find somebody and bring in a new regime. And I think if you are going to bring in a new regime, I think now is the time. Get a new coach, get a new GM. We don't have a quarterback. Sure, we have Aaron Rodgers, and yeah, we have Jordan Travis waiting in the wing, but we'll have the opportunity to have a GM and a coach pick their quarterback, handpick their quarterback. Not saying that I want somebody necessarily out of this draft. There are a couple names that come to mind that I think will be good, maybe. But if Rodgers sticks around for another year, which sounds like he might be, I think so. Yeah, I believe was what his response was.
Yeah.
He sit him and let him develop under one of the best quarterbacks of all time, and then bring him in for season 2 once Aaron Rodgers retires, and then hopefully go from there. Keep Breece Hall around, have Sauce Gardner get his head out of his ass, keep Garrett Wilson around, and then just build. You have 3 grand pieces right there that I think. Oh, and then you also have Quentin Williams on the defensive line, who also hasn't been playing great, but he's also another building block piece that you can build around. Things that you keep around.
His brother's good. His brother
Quincy, yeah, Quincy's good too.
Right.
Yeah, Quincy's very good. But again, these are all things that you can, it's not a lost cause, but it just needs to be led correctly, and it just hasn't been, and that's it. I don't know. We need Joe Namath to die. Sorry, he's got to go.
You got to break the curse, but it's a layered situation in the sense that it's not. You can't just point to one thing. I think. You need to obviously the GM needs to change. You need to change up the whole coaching staff. You need to gut that part of the team and rebuild there. But then you can't just say as Woody Johnson or whoever that he has to keep Aaron Rodgers. He has to keep these players and build around them. No, you have to give them the keys and be like, look, if you don't want Aaron Rodgers, like is there an out after this year? Or is he locked into next year, Rodgers?
I believe he has an option to leave.
He has the option, so it's the team is kind of locked into him.
Yeah,
the 3-year deal. This is year 2 of a 3-year deal.
Okay. So, well, in that respect, I mean, then you have to hope and kind of pray that he'll be okay with developing someone. I mean, you'll give him the chance to start next year, and he'll get every shot to be the quarterback that can lead that team to the Super Bowl or whatever, to success. But he has to be able to be willing to develop a quarterback that you bring in to take over for him, because you can't have Rodgers leave and just be stuck with nothing. Travis, the guy from Fuller State, I don't know his last name, Travis Hunter, whatever.
Yep.
Travis Hunter.
No, Travis Hunter's the wide receiver. It's Jordan Travis.
From Colorado. Jordan Travis. You can't just have him be there, especially if this team doesn't believe in him, and we don't really know what he is yet. I mean, he was talented at Florida State, but we haven't seen anything from him. We don't know how far along he is. And if this new regime doesn't believe in him, it's just going to be a recipe for disaster. So they need to have pieces in place past Aaron Rodgers, because if they just go into next year hoping to run it back and make it to the playoffs and win a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers, it's just going to be a disaster, and you're going to set your team back years.
We do have some other. Are we, Jerry and Anthony? Are we able to move on from? Jets here?
I never want to talk about it again.
I think they win today. All I'm going to say is I do think they win today, and I hate to even say it, but they're not dead. The wild card is still pretty wide open. If again, you hate to hear it again, but they have to run the table, and there's no reason why they
back
shouldn't
to the wild card spot.
Something like that. Yeah. The AFC is wide open. There's not a good team. There's good teams in the AFC, and then a drop off.
You know what though? Here's the thing.
There's 3 or 4 good teams, and the rest of it's kind of or bad.
As a veteran fan, I will be rooting for the Jets to lose every game, because
you want a draft pick.
I want a draft pick, and I hate when the team blows it and makes me sell my season tickets, and I get $20 for a Colts game, and then they win, and then they win, and they win, and they win, and then they go to Buffalo week 16 and lay a fucking egg, and then the Bills are responsible for us missing out, while I get no money from my Colts tickets, I get no money from my Dolphins tickets, I get no money from my Seahawks tickets, and I'm just sitting here like an asshole. I'm done. And next year, I'm selling my week 1 tickets, and I'm selling my second home game, and I might sell my third home game to make some money back. Because if it makes sense and they're actually a serious team, then I will go to the games in December. But I am no longer going to September games, and I'm no longer going to October games. Somebody else could be the sucker that goes to the early games and pays money, because it's this team is not worth our time anymore. I'm sick of and I'm just sick of it. And it doesn't make any sense for us to exert any more energy.
I think that's
until-
more than fair, and I think they haven't really
Yeah.
given you a reason to. Especially like the fucking nerve on these guys to raise season ticket prices. What given the state of the affairs right now is just it's read the room. Literally read the room.
and
Another
and
thing-
let yeah, keep going.
I was just going to say another saving grace that we have is that with the results of the election, that Woody, it seems as if Woody's going to resume his duties as diplomatic person to the UK or whatever it was. So maybe he won't. Yeah. So maybe he's not going to be around too much. And I understand that brings in his brother or son or whatever, Chris Johnson. He's just as much as a jerk off, but it's not Woody. So maybe that's
I think
silver
from an
lining.
ownership standpoint, and it's hard because the guy owns the team, right? So there's nothing that you could say to that guy, but it's gotta. I'm all for public service, right? As volunteer fireman, Jerry, you were a volunteer, now you're a paid fireman.
Sure.
Yeah.
Public service is important, and God bless it. But you're running a franchise, and I think that someone that can, and it probably won't happen, but someone's got to be there to be like, you're either here or you're not. And once again, you can't say that to the guy that cuts the checks, and I get that, but this is a franchise, and yeah, is it important? In the grand scheme of things, no. You know what I mean? Will it fix the economy? Will it help foreign affairs? And no, it won't. But people tune into this, people care, and if you're 100%, if you're not going to be 100% invested in what's going on here, then.
Yeah, then don't be at all.
Then don't be at all.
Yeah.
But
Matt, we talked about this last January. I said this team needs to lose because when you lose bad enough and when you lose convincingly enough, that will trigger the GM to make the right decision. The right decision was to get rid of the GM and the coach last year because the GM did nothing when Rodgers got hurt with a really, really talented roster, just gave up. I don't want to make the playoffs. This fan base hasn't made the playoffs in 12 years. Now it's 13 years. But what they did was they took themselves out of the Adam Peters conversation. Adam Peters went to Washington, and what did he do? Turned the franchise around in 2 months. Drafted, signed players, got the right coach in, had that guy hire the right proper staff. And you know who wanted to probably become the GM of the Jets? Adam Peters. Guy's wife's entire family lives in New Jersey. The last 10 years, she's been on the road, trying to, pursue his passion, his dream. And it would have been perfect situation. He would have came here in a heartbeat to come back home to where his wife's from and coach and be the general manager of the Jets, bring in a new head coach. Instead, you brought these two guys in on a lame duck year. And it's disgusting that they can't, that, the fan base, they're begging for this. And the team is always just 1 year too late. It's always a year too late. And here you go. Now, who is as good as Adam Peters now that could be the GM of the Jets that even wants this job? I couldn't name a single guy.
Well, I think same goes for head coach. I mean, it's really not a great place. It's really never a great place. Taking a head coaching job in the city of New York, you're set up to fail. The fan base is never going to be behind you, unless you could string together a couple of really good years. So it's really hard. But if we could, can we go to some other games on the slate? Because we do have a great slate.
Yeah, we do. There's a lot of good matchups today. I'm very excited.
Some big games.
Another. There's two more places I think we need to watch for potential firings. Chicago, they're hosting the Packers today. They're 5.5 point home dogs. I think that this is the end of the rope for Matt Eberflus. He's very clearly the problem in Chicago. He's not at all progressing Caleb Williams as much as I mean, I've been on here saying I don't believe in Caleb at all. I don't think he's going to be a great quarterback. He's still the number 1 overall pick. The guy's got a world of talent. He's got the potential, clearly, and enough people believe that. And And when you've got veterans in your locker room that are going on the radio when they're being asked, has the head coach lost the locker room? They're saying, I don't know yet. Or when they give answers that are not 100% no, he didn't, that's a concern. And when you've got veterans that are going to the coaching staff asking to play Tyson Bagent over Caleb Williams, that's a problem. That's a really big problem. And
as your coach, you got to put your foot down in that situation and be like, no, it's Caleb Williams. You got to take control of that locker room. And if they're going to start turning on him, this early in the season, this early into his rookie season, and when a lot of the problems, he's part of them, but a lot of them are not his fault. The team's giving up around him. The coaching staff has been terrible. And even last week speaks volumes when he had to get helped up by a defensive player after taking a hit. It's like, what is going on? As a coach and other players on the team, you should be reaming the linemen out for that, because how can you not go help your quarterback?
Yeah. But you know what? You're right about all of that.
It's a layered situation, but
you brought in a bunch of players on one, or you have a bunch of players that are here on either 1-year deals or expiring contracts. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with them saying that. The writing is on the wall when you draft a rookie quarterback that this guy's got to be progressed. But I do kind of understand it from some of those players' standpoints. Now, if I'm running the Bears, there's no way I'm benching Caleb Williams. I'm not killing the kid's confidence. He's not going to get any better
Not at this point. Not at this point.
Not at this point. He's not getting better on the bench. But I kind of understand where those players are coming from. Hey, we got 4 wins. We're like a game or two out from a playoff spot. This guy is not helping us. He's not making the right throws. He's holding on to the ball too long. They see Tyson Bagent in practice every day. He's got a great rapport with the wide receivers. And once again, when your wide receivers are coming to the head coach saying, you got to bench this guy, that's just an all-around problem. That's a not reading the room problem. I don't know. I guess I could go on for hours on why that's a fucking problem. But it's a mess in Chicago.
Control and a lack of it's just a lack of everything by the head coach. I mean, he needs to take control of that locker room. It's like you got to understand why these guys are upset, like you said, because a lot of them want to win, especially on expiring contracts. But in the same breath, you're coming to a team that had the number 1 overall pick, has tons of holes aside from the quarterback. You cannot there has to be some level of understanding that your team is not necessarily going to be.
And I can understand the players thinking that they're better than they are or whatever, but like everything that we heard out of Chicago going into the season, and even the national media, and it took me till I was 27, 28 to realize how much the national media wiped the Chicago Bears ass, because there's just so many people in the national media from Chicago. But you're playing in the same, look at the NFC North right now. That's probably the best division in football, right? That consists of 3 teams that most people don't want to play. You don't really want to go up to Green Bay and play the Packers. You don't want to go to Minnesota and play the Vikings. And you definitely don't want to go to Detroit and line up against the Lions. So, if you're a Bears fan, where did you think you were going to be better than any one of those 3 teams? You don't have – I don't believe in Jordan Love, but you don't have a quarterback that's better than him right now, right? Caleb Williams is not better than Jordan Love. He's not better than Jared Goff. Maybe I'll say he's probably better than Sam Darnold, the way Sam Darnold looked. But, the people that were talking about 10, 11 wins for the Bears this year, in what world? Where did you anticipate that? And you look at their schedule down the stretch, it's fucking rough. You still got to play Detroit twice. You got to play Minnesota and the Packers again. So I think the Packers are going to win this game. I think they're going to win it convincingly. I think they're going to cover the spread. I think it's going to look pretty ugly. And I think potentially by the Sunday night game or tomorrow morning, we're going to hear about Matt Eberflus cleaning out his desk in Chicago at Hallis Hall.
That would be unconventional for them, though, just because they're one of the franchises.
I don't think they've ever done that, yeah.
No, they have not. Not for a head coach. And what's his name? The coordinator was the first time they've done that as well. So I guess it's time for a shakeup.
But the Bears do this every time. The Bears wait a year, and then they fire the coach. And then the new coach comes in, and the coach the GM and the coach that come in didn't draft the quarterback. And then it's just a vicious cycle.
The issue with the Bears is you've got an ownership group an ownership family that does not believe in paying coaches, right? So like off the bat, it's really hard to hire someone because if you don't want to pay anybody, like if you don't want to pay a head coach a lot of money, it's really hard to hire one, right? That's in any walk of life. And the second issue is that you've got, and I don't know if it's the owner or if it's Kevin Warren. I think that's their president of football operations. Like
That sounds right. Yeah.
You've got a middling group in your front office that interferes with the day-to-day decisions. And like when you're hiring, I mean, similar to how we talked about Joe Douglas, when you're an ownership group and you hire a general manager and you hire a head coach, you've got to hand the franchise off to them and you've got to let go. And the only things that you should be asking is, what do you need? What can I get you? That's it. Like, that's pretty much it. You provide them the facility, you provide them all the great amenities, and then you've got to walk away. You're if you were an owner and you were that good at building a team, you wouldn't pay $10 million a year for a general manager because you would just do it yourself. But there's a reason that you hire these people. There's a reason that you hire a head coach, and it's to win and run your franchise. And if these guys can't do it, then you step in and you fire. But you've got to be hands off. I mean, that was the best decision that Sheila Ford Hamp made in Detroit. She hired Brad Holmes. She let Brad Holmes and a group of ex-players, Chris Spielman, Barry Sanders, kind of interview some head coaches. And they hired Dan Campbell, and the rest is history so far. But the best thing that Sheila does is she steps back and she lets the guys that she hired do their fucking jobs. We've got two games in the 1 o'clock window I'm going to keep my eye on, other than we'll get into Jacksonville, Detroit in a few minutes. The big game is Baltimore, Pittsburgh. But if I could go off that for 2 minutes here and talk about the Minnesota Vikings traveling to Tennessee. So Minnesota's a good team. Their record's been proven, right? They're 7-2 now. Tennessee's bad. Tennessee's really bad. We know that. But
Trap game.
their defense is really good. Yes, exactly. Trap game. Their defense is really good. Sam Darnold is not playing good football right now. Is there any world where the Tennessee Titans beat the Minnesota Vikings today? They're also home dogs. They're +6 today.
I don't think so.
I see it. I mean, I know Will Levis and that offense hasn't been great, but you have a good connection with Calvin Ridley there, and he can take the top off of a defense and really kind of control, like really take over a game from the wide receiver position. We've seen it in his career. I know he hasn't been a superstar receiver in some years now, but he is someone who's had a great few weeks, and Will Levis loves throwing the deep ball, loves throwing it to him. And the Vikings do have a fairly weak secondary. You know, they get attacked by the wide receivers and the quarterback, and you know they're susceptible to that. And Tony Pollard's been great in the backfield. So this is a game where you can kind of see the Titans take over. I don't think it's going to be a high scoring game. I don't think they're going to go and blow the doors off the Vikings, but the Vikings offense isn't amazing outside of Justin Jefferson and old man Aaron Jones. And the Titans have a good defense. So it could be a situation where they are able to shut them down and Sam Darnold's left to do nothing, essentially. And the Titans can squeak by him.
Facino?
Sorry, I just
Yeah,
got
anything on
to
this game?
hold on 1 second. I'm sorry.
I got a good feeling. I think Minnesota wins this game.
Gotta work.
I don't think they cover the spread. And I think Sam Darnold's going to find a way to throw a pick today.
At least one.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's starting to return to form a little bit.
Yeah.
We
Starting
saw
back
it
into
the
the
past 2 weeks. Yeah. But still, I think I understand that the Titans can be frisky at times, but I wouldn't, if I'm the Vikings, right, I wouldn't take the game lightly, but I wouldn't be too worried about them.
Right.
Yeah, the Titans they don't have Flores is licking his chops. That's what I think, and I think that as long as they just take care of the football, they win by a few scores.
He's someone who's going to get a job come this offseason, or probably should as a head coach. Get a second shot at things.
Yeah, he's one of those guys where, you know, everybody wants the best corner and they need 2 lockdown corners, like the Jets, for example. If you don't have 2 lockdown corners, you're going to let up, 300 yards to any quarterback. He's starting. First of all, look at the corners that they had in April, and then the corners that actually made the roster. He's starting complete journeyman, guys that nobody thought would start in the NFL again, and they're playing at a Pro Bowl level. So it goes to show you how important scheme is and putting players in the right position to succeed. The guy is incredible at it, especially in the defensive backfield. He's really, really good at it. So, I think that they're overcoming Sam Darnold. A lot of people, in the beginning of the year, they were loving Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold is who he is. He's a loser. He's a horrible quarterback, and that's why they drafted J.J. McCarthy, and that's why Sam Darnold will not be a Viking next year, and they should have traded him at the trade deadline. But, they're trying to make the playoffs, so, their schedule is they go Titans, Bears, Cardinals, Falcons, Bears again, Seahawks, Packers, Lions. I think they win like 3 to 4 more games. They'll probably get in at 10-7, maybe 11-6, and they'll lose in the first round.
Like always.
And, they're just not. They don't have the quarterback. There's too many. There's too many good teams out there.
I'm willing to bet Sam Darnold's going to end up on the Saints. I feel like that's a good spot for him to go.
Yeah,
He could end up in Tennessee next year.
That's not a bad spot either.
Tennessee. He's going to end up at he's probably going to end up on one of these teams that don't get a high enough draft pick to take one of these quarterbacks, or not willing to trade up because it's a weaker quarterback draft class. There's really only 2, maybe 3 that I could see going in the first round, and there are going to be teams that are going to have to make that decision. Do you take a shot at one of these guys, by really overdrafting them, or do you trade up, or do you wait another year for maybe what will look like a little bit better of a draft class for quarterbacks?
The Saints really are that team, though. I don't think they could do it again, though. They have to take the rookie, right? But it just makes a lot of sense.
I don't know. It does, but we'll see.
The biggest game, no doubt, today is in the 1 o'clock window, which, first of all, shame on the NFL putting this in the 1 o'clock window. What do you I guess it's good because now you can have a lot of eyes on Kansas City and Buffalo. That's going to be a really big game in the 4:25.
That's going to be a good game too, but who cares about Bengals Chargers at 8 o'clock? Put one of those games at 8 o'clock.
I think that's going to be a good game too. Yeah, I agree with you.
Not as good as Ravens Steelers.
It won't be, but
it's not.
It won't be, but like
you know, also another I think contributing factor to this. Yeah. This game's going to end 9-6.
Ravens Steelers?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
They always play each other close.
I know
small.
that. No.
They do, but the Ravens' defense, secondary, is so suspect right now.
Kyle Hamilton's out too for the
exactly.
Ravens.
So that secondary is so suspect. And Russ has been throwing the ball. He's been slinging the rock pretty well. And you got George Pickens, who's finally breaking out for them. So you can see this is going to be a pretty high-scoring game. The Ravens have not been in many low-scoring affairs this season. So
I'll sit here and I'll tell you that I was wrong talking about Pittsburgh benching Justin Fields. I thought that was really stupid. I had very little belief left in Russell Wilson. Good for him resurrecting his career, and good for the Steelers. I mean, this was a team that people were kind of like, maybe they'll win 9 games, 10 games. Like the Steelers are looking like a team that might win 11, 12 games this year. This is no doubt going to be their biggest test of the year. I gun to my head, I'm taking the Ravens, and I would probably be comfortable taking those 3 points. Although maybe I would buy it down
without a doubt.
Buy it down.
Oh no, I'm sorry, I'm taking the Steelers here. Is that what
you're taking the Steelers?
Yeah,
you taking the Steelers to win or to cover?
To cover. There's a good chance they win, but the stats are very much so in.
Steelers are home too.
It's in Pittsburgh. Ooh, it's in Pittsburgh. So that's a tough one. I mean, while we're on this, someone's got to look at do some investigating into Mike Tomlin's personal life, because he has to have some sort of deal with the devil or something going on. He just doesn't miss. Every year he pulls some rabbit out of the hat and ends up with a winning team. And somehow, some way, after Russell Wilson's looked terrible for the past 2-3 years with the Broncos, he's now looking like a top 10, top 15 quarterback in the league out of absolute nowhere. So.
Well, I will say this. I would bet my mortgage on the Ravens today.
Really?
Yeah. This is one of those Lamar Jackson, I'm the best player in the NFL, you guys are going to respect me type games, because he has two kryptonites. It's the playoffs and it's the Steelers, and he's overcoming both of them this year. And this is the first stepping stone.
He's got a big kryptonite that wears.
I think he is going to make
down in Kansas City.
I think he's going to make.
1000%.
I think he's going to make. I don't know. I think he has a winning record against him.
Not playoffs.
He's 1-4.
Yeah, but
what
playoffs
is he
in general.
against the Steelers in his career.
Is he
He has
really?
like one win. He has like one win against the Steelers in his career.
That's
I'll tell you what, though. He is. I think they murder them. I just think that there's no stopping this team. When they signed Derrick Henry in April or March, I believed that was a Super Bowl decision, a Super Bowl move, and you signed him for today. So go run the fucking ball down these motherfuckers' throats.
I think that this is like, I think that this is spitting in the face of, and in a good way, all of the people that talk about the running back position like it's a dead position in the NFL. Oh, you never draft a running back in the first round. The Lions seem to be doing pretty well with Jahmyr Gibbs, right? Yeah. The Giants seem to do pretty well with Saquon Barkley. In fact, they could use a guy like Saquon Barkley on that roster right now.
They might even have a better record than the Eagles if they kept him.
What is the rhetoric around Barkley signing with Philly? Oh, he's washed. Same thing with Derrick Henry. Oh, Derrick Henry's washed. He's a power running back. He's in his 30s now. He's got nothing left. Is there a good supporting cast around a guy like Derrick Henry? Absolutely. But you can't deny what Derrick Henry's doing right now. You take Derrick Henry out of the Ravens offense, as great as Lamar is, you take Derrick Henry out of that offense, they're not nearly as scary a team at all without Derrick Henry. Right? So
this is the best season of Lamar's career, and he's won 2 MVPs already, and that's because of Derrick Henry. The ability that Lamar now has more time to throw the ball. He has the ability to. He's just things have become so much easier for him because they have to focus on Derrick Henry. It's not J.K. Dobbins or Gus Edwards or Justice Hill now. It's a legit threat coming out of the backfield, and like you said, people say that you can't give the running backs this money or draft them that high. It depends on the scheme. There's some schemes that don't work with that you can.
I don't think it's necessarily a scheme, man. I think it's like, is the guy great? Does he look like he's slowing down at all? Like there are people that are exceptions, and I think that we talk about running backs sometimes like, oh, they're interchangeable. I could find a guy in the 7th that could do that. No, you can't. No, you can't.
You absolutely cannot.
If you could have found a guy in the 7th, they wouldn't have paid veteran money for a Derrick Henry. But like Derrick Henry is proving that he is worth every penny the Baltimore Ravens are paying him. Saquon Barkley is proving he is worth all of the money the Philadelphia Eagles are paying him. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery are proving their worth in the NFL right now. And you could attribute it to a bunch of things. Oh, it's a great line. It's this. Yeah, man, it's a team game. There's 11 guys on the field for a fucking reason. And if you put some scrub back there, he's not putting up those same numbers. He's not putting up those same yards. So good for Derrick Henry. Good for the Ravens. I'm going to take the Ravens.
Can you take like an alternate spread and take them like -10?
You could take a -10, but there's no world where I'm doing that. I mean,
I know, Jerry. Look, I know the Steelers are one of those teams, man, that always wins and they always cover the spread. But I just think that this is one of those get the monkey off your back, beat the piss out of that team.
Remember last week when and I guess I got to talk about it today, how I put my fucking foot in my mouth, making a big case for Jared Goff being in the MVP conversation.
Yeah,
and he comes out on Sunday night and he throws 5 picks. And luckily the Lions still win, right? But in one game, he took himself out of that conversation. You're propping up Lamar here, and listen.
I prop him up every week.
You do.
He delivers like a mailman on a Tuesday.
Out of an MVP out of the MVP right now. I mean, he's so far and away the favorite right now. That Ravens team is clicking on all cylinders, and
Josh is still in the convo. Don't forget about Josh
Allen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's having a great year, but Lamar is just playing out of his skin. He's having easily the best season of his career.
If Josh Allen and the Bills today could knock off the Chiefs, I think Allen inserts himself into 1A, 1B MVP conversation.
Bills by 1 million.
You think the Bills win by 1 million today?
Figuratively, yes. I think they
can win by whatever they want as long as they don't win by more than 9.
Why not more than 9?
because I just teased the Chiefs.
Yeah, I like the Chiefs today.
Yeah.
I do not.
Yeah, because I hate Josh Allen. But Will Hickey, dude, Ashton Jeanty should go freaking number 1 overall. He's the best player in college football. He really should. I'm just looking at his comment. You know what? There's never been a player that I've ever seen. I just haven't been able to. I watch every Boise State game now. The guy, since week 2, nobody has balance he has. Nobody has power that he has combined with that, and nobody has the ability to see the whole better than him. I don't see a world where he is not a top 10 pick. I think he's a top 5 pick this year. And then everyone's going to go, I can't believe they took a running back in the top 5. Guess what? Every single running back that goes in the top 5, their team makes the playoffs the next year. Except maybe Saquon. But
yeah.
But I think they made it the second year, right? I mean, that's just how
they
it
haven't
works.
made it with Saquon. They never made it with Saquon.
No, they made it with Saquon.
Oh, they did, but with Dable.
Yeah.
Yes. They did.
Yeah, I guess
you did. You did make with Saquon and Dable. What are you talking about? The playoffs?
Yeah, they made it 2 years ago with Saquon.
Yeah.
But you saw Zeke
when they beat the
Cowboys. They made it with Zeke. The Jaguars drafted Fournette. They
Fournette,
made it with
yeah.
him. It happens consistently. I would love to see it for him. I'd love to see it for that running back position. And I think whoever takes him's a genius because the guy doesn't fall down.
No.
So, Facino, you've got the Chiefs today. Jerry, you've got the Chiefs as well.
Yep. I have I just put in a 5-team teaser or 6-team teaser. I think it is. I took a lot of dogs today. Not to get too far ahead of myself, but I got the Saints at +7.5, Steelers at +9.5, Dolphins -2.5, Falcons +7.5, Chiefs +8.5, Bengals +7.5.
You didn't want to take Jaguars +14?
No.
I don't know where I'm on this game. You know what? I'll fuck around and take the Bills.
I don't think it's a bad play. I think the Bills will win outright.
They're 2.5 favorites right now at home. I mean, this is
2.5.
the Chiefs team that won on a blocked field goal and last week, and
Right.
they're winning, but
They're due.
They're due.
to
They're
lose.
due. They're beyond due.
they're due for a loss, and it's like, and they've done everything they can to lose games, and it's like I feel like I'm saying this week over week, but it's just it's gonna
That's true.
happen, and it's gonna happen in embarrassing fashion. I do not see them losing by a field goal or something. I think there's gonna be a week where they just get the doors blown off of them, and just all the wind sucked out of Kansas City, and you realize this team is not a top 5 team in the NFL right now. They're just not. They're at best a top 3, top 4 team in the AFC, and then you have a couple teams in the NFC that take over them. I mean,
I think at this moment in time, the Ravens and the Bills are better than them. I think you take them. And then I think there's an argument to be made for the Bengals with how well Joe Burrow's playing. All 3 of those quarterbacks are playing better than Patrick Mahomes right now. And maybe they'll find a way to keep winning, maybe, but you can't feel comfortable about it. Every game you watch, you just kind of, your skin's crawling watching what they're doing on the field. Because, yeah, they're winning, but they're not doing it in a comfortable way. They're not doing it in a
if the
fashion you
Denver
want.
Broncos were winning games like this, we would be like excited. We would say, wow, they really are a really good team, which I do think the Broncos are decent.
They're a
but-
solid team.
They're a solid team, but like if the Broncos were doing this, if the Giants, if like other lower tier
You're like,
teams
good
were
for
doing
them.
this, exactly. When you're looking at the Chiefs and you know what good Chiefs football looks like, and like this is just like, what the fuck are we watching?
Yeah.
So I guess I'll take the Bills. This game is just like Baltimore, Pittsburgh can go either way. That's kind of Atlanta in Denver seems like it's going to be a decent game in the 4:00 window. And I guess we will. Are we good to move on to Detroit, Jacksonville?
Absolutely.
So, Jacksonville looks bad. This seems to be like the game that's going to get the head coach fired in Jacksonville. Where I'm at on this is last week the Lions went to Houston. Jared Goff plays the worst game he's probably ever played in the Lions uniform. Probably the worst game he's ever played in the NFL, period. Throws 5 picks. The Lions were dead at halftime, down 16 points. They come back into this game. Is it good to see what Jared Goff did last week? No, it's not. But if we recall last year in the month of November, he played his worst football as well. I believe he threw 10 picks or turn the ball over 10 times in that month. We lost 2
Yeah.
games. I'd much rather see you have a game like this on Sunday Night Football in November than I would in the divisional round, right?
Yeah.
Playing the Vikings or the Eagles or something. So what was really good to see about last week was that Jared plays his worst football and this team found a way to win. The kicker did the kicker's job, hits a 58-yarder to tie up the game, and then whatever, 2, 3, 4 minutes later in game time, hits a 52-yarder to win the game. That's incredible. Hats off to Jake Bates actually setting the Lions record in distance for a field goal, 58 yards. That record previously held by Matt Prater hitting a 57-yarder to go into overtime in 2016 against the Minnesota Vikings. I remember listening to that game on the radio. And the defense pitched a shutout second half, got C.J. Stroud to turn the ball over twice. Credit to Facino. He calls me at halftime or texts me at halftime and says, Lions are winning this game. Jared Goff looks terrible. You put your foot in your mouth about Jared Goff in the MVP conversation, but Lions are winning this game. And I was like, and the whole time I'm watching this game, I'm just thinking to myself, like, I never felt like they were going to win, but I also didn't feel like they were going to lose, if that makes any sense. Like the Texans were just not putting the game away. They had multiple opportunities. Even in the end of the game, 3rd and 4, 2-minute warning. They go to TV timeout, and I'm sitting there like, fuck, this is how it ends. They're going to convert on 3rd down. Lions are going to burn 3 timeouts. They're going to kick a field goal, and that'll probably be it. That game really showed me a lot with this Lions defense. I knew that they were good, but to pitch a shutout second half there without Zadarius Smith, right? The Lions traded for him earlier that week, and then Dan Campbell
Obviously without Aiden Hutchinson too.
Yeah, without Aiden. And Dan Campbell basically says, this was supposed to be your bye week. I'm giving you your bye week. Give your body a rest. And credit to Dan Campbell. He had heard that Zadarius had a house down in Florida that got destroyed in the hurricane. And so, the first thing he told him once he got here from Cleveland was he was like, listen, get back on the plane, fly down to Florida, make sure everything's okay, come back to us Friday, and, we'll start this process.
Yeah, he's just the best. He's the man.
Yeah,
And
they know how to
coach,
win now.
great person.
Once you win a bunch of games in a row and the same team's there for a lot of victories, you just learn how to win. I mean, the Chiefs are winning. We just said it. They're not the best team, but they're the best at winning. And the Lions are a very good team, but now they're learning that they're very good at winning too, which is the most important part of a team is can you win and do you know how to win? And do you know and can you make sure that you don't crumble? Because these games can get really short when your team, gets the wind sucked out of them, but they can also be very long when you don't stop and you keep fighting and you get the 3rd down stops and force turnovers. You can extend games, and for a long time the Lions couldn't. For 30 years they couldn't extend the game. They couldn't, they couldn't make the plays necessary to win, and now they can. And we'll see if it could last for longer than a few years. That's the biggest thing. Can this team be good for half a decade? I hope so. But, that's what's yet to be seen. So that's the next step, get to a Super Bowl, hopefully win, but be good for 5 to 10 years.
Right. That was a big confidence thing too. Just kind of like coming into that game, playing a good Texans team, not a great Texans team, but being able to win without Jared Goff playing his best football, with minus some key parts of that defense, and just kind of laboring through a win and just showing that you can win despite not playing your best football. And to figure that out at this point in the season, kind of coming into that home stretch, hopefully being able to lock up a 1st-round bye come the end of the regular season is big, because then you don't want to take your foot off the gas, but if push comes to shove, if you are without guys for a week, or you just kind of you lay up a stinker on offense, your team can kind of labor through and win a game.
This secondary is looking like potentially the best secondary in football. I'm going to knock on wood here after what I did last week with Jared Goff, but
maybe don't say anything about the Lions anymore. It's just kind of
Carlton Davis.
Statements.
Carlton Davis picked off C.J. Stroud twice in that game. Broke his thumb in practice this week, and first thing he says to the media is like, "Fuck it, I'm playing. I don't give a shit. I'll just wear a cast on it." And that's what winners do. Not to, I guess, smell my own smell here, but that's what fucking winners do. Like I don't know
They
how else
find,
to
they
word it.
find a way. No, I agree.
They find a way, and they say like, yeah, I'm hurt. I don't give a shit. I'm playing.
And that's a
Herbie-
testament to the Lions, dude. Like, what did I texted you after that game? I said that was the most resilient game I've ever seen. Like, that's the difference between an upper echelon franchise that comes back despite your quarterback throwing 5 picks and playing like dog shit and still winning that game, as opposed to rolling over and die like a certain green team in New York would have done, without a doubt.
Oh, they wouldn't
know?
have came out in the second half at all. They
And a blue
would have
team in New
been
York, too.
tweeting.
Don't
They would
sell
have
us
been
short.
saying things on Twitter at halftime that it wasn't their fault.
That's just the difference, dude. That's the culture. That's like
Yeah.
that's what you need.
If that's
Yeah.
either
Yeah.
team in New York, we're turning off the TV at halftime and saying this is done. Whereas a team like Detroit, it's like you never feel like you're out of it. You could have been down 2-3
Apparently-
scores, and it's like
someone was able to, I don't know how, pull up the ratings in Michigan, and like no one turned the TV off at halftime.
Good.
Like the ratings didn't really change between first and second half of that game. I saw that on Twitter. How true it is, I don't know, but I believe it because I stayed
should've.
up. I was like, I'm not going to bed. Like they're only down 16 here. It's not over, And
Yeah, your
That was-
season's just getting started, and I'm fucking doing mock drafts.
I've been doing mock drafts since week 4.
It's unbelievable, dude.
Terrible.
I just want that order to get set. I want to know, where are we
Yeah.
picking? It's
I want the
fucking
Giants
Halloween.
to get Shadur Cam Ward.
I
Well-
hope so too, man. I hope Shadur comes to New York. It'd be nice to root for him.
we do a fantastic draft show here at Sunny Days Media. The past 2 years, we've done something. First year, we did something over Spaces, Twitter Space. Last year, we did something on YouTube. It really, really panned out well. So hopefully, we could figure out if we can get you guys on the screen for that.
Oh yeah,
I
I'm
know
down.
Casino popped in late. Zach, he had a work issue. So Jerry, I know you got stuck at work too, I believe.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of fun. So tune in for that. And we're gonna have a lot to talk about with the Jets and Giants, both probably
Oh, yes.
drafting in the top 10, maybe top 5. So all right, do we have anything else here? It's 12:21, and I have not placed a bet yet. So I would like to get some of my bets in. Do we have anything else
I'm
for
good.
this Sunday, week 11?
I'm just happy the Giants aren't playing this week.
Yeah.
Can't lose on a bye week, baby.
No, you can. You
Yeah.
can.
Absolutely can.
Yeah.
I'm a Giants fan. I've already lost.
Casino,
Unreal.
you got anything else?
No, just go Lions, man. Let's hopefully the Lions
Lions.
win by 30.
It's gonna be a good week.
Uh,
Good weekend of football. I'm excited.
All right. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you all next Sunday.
See
Let's
everyone
go
next
Lions.
Sunday.